Before we dive into this account, it's important to understand the broader context. The following remarks describe a personal interaction between a U.S. governor and former President Donald Trump during a period marked by wildfires, political tension, and growing national division. Moments like this offer a rare behind-the-scenes look at how political relationships are formed and how personal dynamics can shape public decisions. As you listen, consider not only the story being told, but also what it reveals about leadership, communication, and power in modern politics.
With the one exception, I wrote a book that went up to when my father, God bless him, he lasted long enough to see his son get elected governor. He was in a wheelchair on election night, passed away a few weeks later. Didn't see me get sworn in, but boy, he was there. And what a night that was for me. And that's where the book was going to end. But the fires last year, I was going to release this last year in Los Angeles, required an extension of the book because I met Donald Trump as governor-elect after the most devastating and deadly wildfire in American history, Paradise, California, right before I got sworn in as governor, when Jerry Brown was governor of California. And I described that trip in detail. And it marks our relationship, which is an interesting one, and let me highlight that. The night before he federalized 4,000 National Guard, remember, that all happened in California first. So much of this is happening in California first. His efforts to try to get and purge the voting rolls happened in our state first, even before Pam Bondi demanded them as an extraction payment to get the National Guard, or rather get ICE out of Minnesota. They had already demanded that of us and a number of other states many, many months ago. Donald Trump demanded my attention on a night that I'll never forget. At 10:30, 11 o'clock.
At this point in the story, the speaker is describing a private interaction that highlights the unusual, often personal style of political communication that has characterized much of modern American politics. Direct phone calls, late-night conversations, and informal exchanges between powerful figures can shape decisions that later appear in official policy announcements. What's interesting here is the contrast between the informal tone of the conversation and the serious consequences that followed, including the federalization of National Guard troops. Moments like this raise an important question for viewers: how much of government decision-making happens through formal institutions, and how much depends on personal relationships between leaders? Understanding that balance can help explain why political narratives sometimes diverge sharply from what happens behind closed doors.
I'm getting this strange phone call, missed call, from someplace in Florida. And it just couldn't be, right? It's 10:30, I'm doing the math. I may have dyslexia, but I can still count, which I'd love to get into. Not the counting part, the dyslexia. And I texted Susie Wiles, and she goes, yes, call him. So I call her, and this was when we had a modest incident in Southern. They colored it in. It was an incident, legit, but they really covered it on, Hannity and Fox in Los Angeles. And Trump called me, presumably to talk about LA. I jump right into LA, he cuts me off, goes, what do you think of New Scum? His nickname for me. I'm like, New Scum? He goes, and then I'm about to say, he says, pretty original, right? Pretty original. I said, original? I said, not original. I literally told him, I said, I just wrote a book. There's an 8th grade bully that called me New Scum. It's in the book. And he goes, oh, no, he goes, well, what about MAGA? What about MAGA? I said, what about it? I said, are we seriously having this conversation? Literally, this is how it went. He goes, pretty good, right? I said, well, no, Reagan kind of had that too, and it's not original. He goes, well, how many hats do you think I sold last month? It is 1:30 in the morning, Mar-a-Lago time. I don't know how many True Socials he was in at that hour, but apparently he sold about 211,000 hats. I was like, well, that's actually impressive. And the whole conversation got even more curious. He said, he starts talking about how he won the debate against Kamala. I'm like, no, you didn't. And he said it was 4 against 1. And I said, I thought there was just only 2 hosts. He goes, well, the cameramen. So anyway, it's 17 minutes later. And by the way, if you think I'm making this up, there was an oversight committee that demanded my notes on this conversation. I literally am not making any of that up. About 18 hours later, the next day, there's a Truth Social saying, I read Newsom the Riot Act. And I am federalizing 4,000 National Guard. It was 2,000, then eventually 2,000. But what the hell is this? That's Donald Trump. That's the Trump in the book. That's the guy slapping me on the leg saying, in front of Jared Kushner, Kushner, you were not my first choice, Tom Brady was. Right in front of Kushner. Gives a whole long story. I thought it was kind of a joke, and then I'm like, oh God, he's serious. Literally, you should read, if for nothing else, know your audience. You may want to read that. But he was trying to read me, and I was trying to read him. Sizing each other up. We're then, we land on Marine One, and Marines are walking up like this, and Trump hits me. He goes, I'm right there. Marines are about to open the door. He goes, Schwartzman doesn't get this. Some of you know who Schwartzman is. Guy he's always competed with to be as wealthy as Schwartzman. We get on Air Force One. He starts petting the side of the plane. He goes, isn't this amazing? I said, it's amazing, sir. You're amazing, sir. Is what he was looking for. We walk in the bedroom, and I'm like, no other president would ever do this. I don't know that I want to go in the bedroom with any other president. And it was really incredible. And then we went back and did a press conference, and I didn't know he could do press conference. And now you see it all the time. It was amazing. Called me the next day. I describe after I took a little shot on my inaugural, and he calls me, and he honestly, it's in the book. He expressed being almost hurt. I'm like, whoa. And I was ready to apologize. Said I didn't. It was just a oblique, And he goes, well, we're all good. We're good. And then he starts talking about my family and my kids, and said something you shouldn't say about someone's wife. That's Donald Trump. And every foreign leader knows this. You can spin them on your finger. The most easily manipulated. It's alarming. It's alarming. And so it's all about that transaction. It's all about that relationship. He's a broken man that tried to break this country. It's not complicated. And that's why, again, we have to remain vigilant, because this is a guy he's been exposed. Weakness masquerading as strength. With respect, and forgive me, but between he and Bessent, it's Dumb and Dumber right now. These guys, this thing is collapsing all around us. I live in the Mag 7 West Coast. That's kind of holding up this whole market, all the CapEx. I'm out there in a state where his state of mind is to take 10% tithing from Intel. I remember Ronald Reagan out there with, Thatcher talking about, free enterprise is a healthy horse pulling a sturdy wagon. Now it's state capitalism. 25% AMD, 25% NVIDIA, MP Materials, golden shares, or golden iPhone to avoid a drop in your shares by getting a tariff exemption. This is different. And so that relationship that was formed then allowed me to navigate during COVID in a way where we actually got along remarkably, and allowed me to navigate up into that phone call. But when he drew that line...
Stories like this illustrate how modern political leadership is often shaped not only by public speeches and official policy statements, but also by private interactions and personal perceptions between leaders. The account we just heard reflects one perspective on a complicated political relationship, and like many political narratives, it invites debate about how power, personality, and media narratives intersect in Washington. For viewers trying to understand today's political climate, moments like these highlight a larger question. Are political conflicts driven more by policy disagreements or by the personalities behind them? We'd love to hear your perspective. Do accounts like this help explain how politics really works behind the scenes, or do they raise more questions than answers? Share your thoughts in the comments below. And if you value thoughtful, fact-based breakdowns of political stories like this, don't forget to like the video, share it with others, and subscribe for more in-depth analysis.